This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Taking a chance, risking it all for the thrill of
Yo, it's Our Lifestyle, the podcast, episode 160, or as the Wu-Tang would say, 160. Ooh, man, we appreciate everyone that's continuing to tune in every week. If you're a new listener or you're here because of Bill Allen, thank you so much. Make sure you follow or subscribe to our podcast, however you found us. For those that don't know, you can find us on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much all of the top podcast apps, if you will, and then also Podbean, which is who hosts our podcast. So it's simple. You can download Podbean on your iPhone or Android device. You can follow us there. You can leave comments and so on and so forth. So again, episode 160, I'm going to do this episode solo. Biggity Mike, the Mayor, my co-host, he's actually out doing a bunch of work this week. Of course, you can imagine working at the Postal Service. He hasn't gone postal yet, but I think he's on the brink of, not necessarily, quote, going postal, but I think he's been working a little too much, and he just needed a little break, right, Mike? So just giving you guys a hard time. But, yeah, Mike's taking this week off, and then we'll sync back up with him next week. If you are on Apple Podcasts, so let's say you're using your iPhone, please, after you subscribe, you can tap on Library, select Our Lifestyle Podcast, scroll down pretty far, and then you can leave us hopefully a 5-star rating if you enjoy this episode. If you haven't already, please do so if you're on an iPhone or you're using Apple. I want to say iTunes, right? But if you got the newer operating system, it's kind of broken out. It's not necessarily iTunes anymore, but leave us a 5-star rating, if you will. Leave your Instagram handle as well, and we'll give you a shout out. So again, those reviews do help us, and it helps others find the podcast. Now, we, of course, cover everything, as many of you guys know, from mini trucks. That's the core. So if you remember the mini trucking era, it's on the rise, and we're seeing mini trucks come back like there's no tomorrow. We've never left, as many of the listeners have not left either. So mini trucking is here to stay, and we love continuing to bring new episodes every single week. Now, for this episode, we basically have, you've seen the cover artwork, hopefully by now, for this episode. We have Bill Allen, right? So I mentioned him earlier. If you're here because of Bill, thank you guys. Bill Allen was in the cult classic, the 1986 movie, Rad. If you've been listening to the podcast for some time, you know that I'm a big Rad fan. I was at the perfect age around the time that the movie came out, and I watched it religiously over and over and over again as a child. My dad had brought home the bootleg copy on VHS. One of his good friends had one of those big satellite dishes, is the way he explained it, and he would, like many people, I guess, in the 80s, they would record these movies, and they're like, oh, look, I got them all recorded, right? And then they would share the tapes, and somehow my dad came home and said, hey, you should check this one out. He was telling me about it. It's a BMX movie, and back in those days with no internet, I mean, we barely had cable. I want to say like in 86, 87, right around there, maybe 85. Somehow, where I grew up in Lando Lakes, yes, Lando Lakes, Florida, we didn't have cable. And somehow we got cable. It came through that area, and we were able to get it, which sounds crazy by today's standards. But I remember we used to have a clicker on top of the TV, and you would, click it from, I don't know if it was like 1 to 50. And when you click that thing, and you landed on a channel like USA, I would watch, for instance, like G.I. Joe growing up, right? Huge fan of G.I. Joe. But, information didn't really travel if you didn't see a commercial about a movie, or you weren't reading like a comic book or maybe like a BMX magazine. You may not have known about that movie. Now, of course, Bill Allen and some of the folks involved with the movie. I think they did a couple of the tours to promote the movie. But, I was kind of at an age where I was at the perfect age to be able to kind of fall in love with the movie. And as many of our listeners know, it was the era of BMX and the awesome colors of the bikes and the different outfits and all that stuff. So a lot of us were out riding our Mongoose bike among many other different brands, Diamondback, Redline, so on and so forth, whatever your parents could afford. But when this movie came out and we got a chance to finally watch it, it was like, damn, dude, this is like cool stuff, right? So, I have that, not even a love-hate, I have that love for the movie Rad, as many of you guys do, and we'll talk about some of those cool facts. Now, I'll get into a few of the things that I'll kind of preface the interview before we get to Bill's, because with Bill's interview, it was pretty awesome. We got a chance to talk about a vast array of topics, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff that I'll talk about. We didn't just focus 100% on Rad because, he's done other things. He's a good dude. And, we just had a lot to talk about, and I think you guys will like the topic. So I'll kind of talk about some of the high-level information about the movie. That way, if you've never seen it or you're not as big a fan as I am, you'll have a little bit more information about it. But so the last episode 159, for those that haven't listened yet, we talked about Black Friday deals. We started this in 2018 ahead of Black Friday, and being involved in the truck scene, there's a lot of vendors and air suspension market, if you will, that run those Black Friday deals. So if you haven't had an opportunity to go back and check it out, if you didn't get in on the Black Friday deals, like I said, I gave some other tips for saving money on parts in general, but just know that a lot of people saved a lot of money, whether you were looking for airlift, AccuAir, maybe some Devious Custom deals, so on and so forth. So good people out there that were kind of discounting stuff at some pretty good rates. We also, of course, discounted a lot of stuff, and we had our Black Friday and our Cyber Monday deals, so thanks to everyone that got in on those deals. Okay, so first up, we got the general updates. This is brought to you by our friends at HammerDWeekendWear. That's HammerD, weekendwear.com. Visit HammerDWeekendWear to check out their awesome apparel, which includes shirts that feature what they refer to as real builds. So get out there, HammerD, check it out. Got awesome price points for their shirts, starting as low as $20 for the new gear. So big ups to Ron Perkins. But kind of wanted to start off and say, listen, I've been super busy, very appreciative of all the love that we continue to get on the podcast, including our social media pages like Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of interaction, and we'll talk about one of those posts a little bit later. But many people are tagging the owners of the vehicles, and I kind of just want to let you guys know that, hey, we feel like we know a lot here at the podcast. I mean, we're passionate about the mini truck scene, but just to be clear, we do not know it all. So it's awesome when people, chime in and say, hey, here's the owner of the Expedition, right, that we posted the other day from ShowFest 2010. I know it had changed hands a couple times, and, some of the people don't want to be tagged that used to own it. Totally understand all that. So, we want to try to get down to the nuts and bolts of, who does own it. And it was pretty cool. One of the previous owners, he had chimed in and tagged the owner on Facebook. So, that gives us the information that we can go back and update that post. That way it's accurate, and it kind of answers questions, because a lot of people want to know, whatever happened to, or who has it, where's it at, those type of things. If we could put the information in there, boom, makes it short and sweet. That way, there's not a lot of back and forth questions. But again, we get a lot of love. So just wanted to kind of, in my general update, just say thanks to everyone that likes our photos, comments, and, shares them with other people, because our pages continue to grow, and we certainly appreciate that. Now, before we jump into the podcast updates, I wanted to remind everyone that Custom Car Show Productions, including Sparkles Detail, are our title sponsors. Custom Car Show Productions puts on 4 main events each year, which includes Bayou Showdown that just took place. So, if you want to hit an awesome car show event, get ready for March 2020 for Orange Beach Invasion. That's going down in, you guessed it, Orange Beach, Alabama. If you've never came down to the South for that time of year, you're straight missing out. So it's simple. You can follow Orange Beach Invasion on Facebook or Instagram. It is March 13th through the 15th of 2020, and it's at the Wharf. It's an awesome location. Bring the friends, family, the homies, the chicas. Bring everyone out for a good car show. But oh, by the way, as Biggity Mike the Mayor also reinforces, there's plenty to do for the family, whether it be a movie theater, hot sauce bar, so much to do, like places to eat, so on and so forth. So big ups to Custom Car Show Productions. After that event, we'll be getting ready for Scraping the Coast 2020, which, more information to come, is going to be the final weekend in June, and that's in Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, at all of these events, Sparkles Detail will be there, and you can have them detail your ride. So if you cruise into the show and your ride needs to be detailed, you hit up the Sparkles Detail booth, and they will come over at some point and clean your ride with those Croftgate products. So big ups to Custom Car Show Productions, Greg Miller and team, who continue to support our Lifestyle, the podcast. Okay, so the podcast updates, this is brought to you by our friends at the West Coast Influence. If you love mini trucking like we do, go to minitruckfilm.com and order the DVD or Blu-ray. They also have some sizes left in various shirts that help support the Mini Truck Hall of Fame. And oh, by the way, they do still have some custom mini truck Hot Wheels left, so check them out. Okay, so really we concluded our pre-sale of the Mini Truck and On the Rise new t-shirts and gear in general. We called that kind of part of our 89 collection. You can visit ourlifestylepodcast.com and you can order everything from a banner to hat. There are some shirts that we're going to put out there as well, so you can get out there and order some shirts if you didn't during the pre-sale. We also have stickers available. This is paying homage to the 1989 movie, Do the Right Thing, so I think you'll like the artwork if you haven't seen it already. It's a basic shirt. It's a slogan shirt. So that On the Rise slogan is now available. You can get out there and order the hats, the stickers, and the banners. Those have already come in. So if you ordered, let's say, a banner by itself, Biggity Mike the Mayor and his awesome wife, they will ship those items out. If you did order a shirt and a hat, as an example, those items will ship together typically. The shirt order was submitted to Graphic Disorder, so once those come in, we'll mail those out. Okay, next we got the Airhead Nation updates. This is brought to you by our friends at Colorado Custom Wheels. You can follow Colorado Custom Wheels on Instagram. Just type in CC Cycle Wheels, which is their kind of also known as name. They make not only wheels for cars and trucks, but they also make the motorcycle wheels, which is part of their CC Cycle Wheels division. They're the best billet wheels, in my opinion, in the world, and I'll be running a set of those wheels on my 1964 Lincoln Continental, aka Smuggler's Blues. To find out more about that project, listen to my other podcast that I produce, which is Lincoln Addict Podcast. Okay, so this one's pretty cool. If you're a part of our Airhead Nation Facebook group, you may have seen a post by the homie Ed Testerman, and he picked up a classic mini truck, which I thought was really, really, really kick-ass. So go out to Facebook, type in Airhead Nation, join the group, and the colors of the truck with the topper, it's a really clean S10 with some old school billet wheels, super nice interior. He said, I'm going to clean this up and show it like it is this year to show the survivor that it is, then fix all the paint and body stuff next winter. Again, super clean square body S10 with a topper. It's got the ground effects kit on it, nice old school billet wheels, old school stereo setup. I mean, truly a time capsule. So, Ed, we're really looking forward to seeing that out there, and thanks for sharing those kick-ass photos via the Airhead Nation group. Now, I also saw them in the Hardcore S10 group, which I appreciate as well. If you're not a part of that group and you love minis and you love mini trucks in general, including S10s, you definitely want to join that group. I'm a part of it, obviously, and there's a lot of cool S10s that are shown. So don't be hating on them as dimes, man. You know how we do. There's a lot of badass ones out there. And for him to share that one, was kick-ass. Okay, next we got the scene updates. This is brought to you by our friends at Sparkles Detail, as I mentioned earlier, and Custom Car Show Productions, which includes Orange Beach Invasion, Scraping the Coast, Sicknick, which is every August, and Bayou Showdown. Each of these shows is available on Instagram. Just search by the show title and give them a follow. All right, so this was kind of big news. Made of Steel Show has come on as an advertiser with Our Lifestyle, the podcast, and we're super stoked. If you type in on Facebook Made of Steel Show or follow Made of Steel Show on Instagram, that's much appreciated. Okay? Goat and Tank, they put in a lot of work. This is the 6th annual show, and it's going down next May. If you search, again, Made of Steel Show on Facebook, you can join the interested or hopefully going drop down, and then boom, you'll be able to join in the discussion for the event page. So super stoked. It takes place in Dover, Florida, and it's going to be Friday, May 15th and Saturday, May 16th of next year. So big ups. We'd love to get out there, shake hands, and just basically chill out with everyone in the scene. Mike went last year. I wasn't able to go because I was up at St. Louis for a show. But we have continued to support. I want to say every year I've been to the show except for last year, which is kick-ass. So big ups. Get out there and support the local shows in your community. And for us Floridians, that's going to be the Made of Steel show. Yes, if you're in Georgia, come on down. It's going to be kick-ass. Again, Made of Steel show on Instagram and Facebook. All right, Brian at Grinder TV has been super busy. This one's easy for everyone. Just go on YouTube and type in Grinder TV. He's got just over 61,000 subscribers, and we talked about Sicknick being one of the Custom Car Show production events. Well, he was at Sicknick 2019 this past August, as I was, and he finished the video, which is about, I think, 5 minutes in length. It has almost 10,000 views, so get out there and subscribe. Now, Grinder was also at Dino's Get Down, and I think that video was also, yes, the 2019 Dino's Get Down 2019 after movie. That was posted, and that has about 52,000 views, okay? So let's not let the C10 guys take over the minis, right? Those guys get a lot of views. There was a lot of cruising. The video was awesome. I highly suggest that you check out both of those. And just know we got to get the views up for Sicknick 2019. So do us a favor and go check it out. All right, Severed in the Southwest 2019 is a show that I attended in 2014, and the 2019 show is this weekend. So for everyone that's going to Severed in the Southwest, be safe. I know it's an awesome time out there in Arizona with the weather. It gets really cool at night. You can follow the hashtags Severed in the Southwest. You'll see that there's over 1,000 posts. You can also follow Severed in the Southwest 2019, and then sometimes you'll see SSW 2019 as a hashtag as well, for short for Severed Southwest. But you'll see if you follow Severed Ties Club on Instagram, we'll be posting some of those photos from that awesome show. It's technically the longest-running car and truck show in the state of Arizona. I know those chapters out there, including the Arizona chapter of Severed, put a lot of work in, so big ups to them. I hope to make it out next year. I went back in 2014, as I alluded, and, man, it was a kick-ass time. Now, one of our friends, Brandon Carroll, he listens to the podcast, and he kind of wanted to give a huge shout-out, not just from him, but from really the Airhead Nation and everyone in the scene, for Ron Perkins. Ron posts a lot of motivational type stuff out there, and he's just a good dude in general. So, man, appreciate Brandon kind of reaching out and saying, hey, dude, why don't we just give him a shout out from the scene of ours that we all love and enjoy. He said, personally, for me, it's very inspirational to see that, so much awesomeness coming from Ron. And I know Ron overall is just a good dude, and that's another reason why we love partnering with him. So, again, HammerD weekendwear.com. Hit him up. There's some cool specials that he typically has around the holidays. Get out there, support him. Let him know that you heard the shout out. Dude, Brandon, thanks for reaching out. Good message there, man. Now, next week, we're going to have additional scene updates that we'll provide. And before we move on to what's hot in social media, want to sync up with Matt Middleton, who is a part of Small Town Throwdown. Now, you've heard us talk a little bit about this show. We're going to talk more about other shows, but I would tell you this, okay? We give out a lot of dates and a lot of information on this podcast. If you go to ourlifestylepodcast.com, and if you're on the computer, scroll to the very bottom, and you're going to see under Pages, there's Official OOP Show Calendar. Once you land on that page, you can click here. There's a hyperlink, and you can subscribe to our iCloud calendar, okay? Now, this is available on Android or iPhone. Once you subscribe, each of these shows that we talk about, we add those to the calendar. So if you're planning vacation or you're planning just maybe a long weekend away, all of the dates are going to be there for the shows that partner with us, and we appreciate all of those show promoters out there. So there's a ton more to talk about, but what I want to say is once you subscribe, you will see on our calendar that Small Town Throwdown is May 23rd of 2020. It's here in St. Cloud, and we've got a couple things we want to talk to Matt about before we move on to the next topic. Okay, so we got Matt Middleton on. And Matt, I just shared the dates, or the date, I should say, May 23rd for Small Town Throwdown out there in St. Cloud. But, dude, you released some cool stuff this week, and I kind of wanted for the Airhead Nation and all the listeners that are chiming in to hear it from you. Dude, what's up with that awesome artwork?
Yeah, man. We teamed up with Graphic Disorder on it, and we gave them a concept, and they blew it out of the park, man, like they always do on all their designs. I mean, it was really cool having Fester's short bus. I mean, he doesn't have it anymore, but his short bus as our main vehicle, and he won our VC pick, and that's how we decided what we were going to put on the shirt. We didn't have a shirt last year, so we wanted to really step our game up this year and get something really cool out there so everyone could have some nice tangible, memorabilia and merchandise and stuff like that for this year coming up.
Well, I'll tell you, man, talk about 0 to 100 real quick. I mean, you guys went from no shirt, as you mentioned, to shirt. The artwork is epic. Now, let's say someone is a casual listener, maybe they're not following Small Town Throwdown. How can they get out there and see that awesome artwork that you shared?
Well, if you're on Instagram, we have Small Town Throwdown Show and underscore between each word, and you'll be able to see what the front's going to look like, the awesome back imagery. You'll also get to see some of the pictures from last year, some of the trophies from last year. We had some drone coverage that was done, so there's pictures of that up there too. So, I mean, this year is going to be bigger and better.
Well, we can't wait, man. The key is you just want to search Small Town Throwdown. It's that simple. And I like how when you talk about simple, you guys are keeping up to a one-day show, kind of short and sweet. I know there's going to be a lot more to talk about. You guys as a club are kind of getting together and trying to work out all the details. There's plenty of time, right? But is there anything else that you want the listeners to know about Small Town Throwdown, which is going down next May here in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, we got a new location. We had a small venue, and it was a great turnout. We packed it out, but like good things come, we outgrew it real fast, and so this year we got the downtown area here in St. Cloud, so we got a lot more space, and I'm going to be probably taking some pictures this weekend of the area and stuff and throwing it up on the Instagram page and just giving you guys kind of a better idea on what the layout's going to be. And I got a couple other things hidden away in the back pocket, ace in the hole.
Excellent. Well, as you mentioned earlier, the listeners, they can go to graphicdisorder.com and see the awesome artwork that that team continues to put out for all of these different shows and brands. I highly suggest their services, as Matt just did. So Graphic Disorder, they're also on Instagram. If you're looking for hats or just apparel or things for your show, get out there and contact the team. They will knock it out of the park. So, but man, I tell you what, although Fester did recently sell the yellow Suburban, a.k.a. the short bus, The thing is so epic, and you guys really did a great job with that concept. And I think it's going to be a huge hit, if you will, for the different merchandise that you guys will hopefully end up putting out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if anybody knows Fester, you know he's a goofball. He likes messing around and stuff. And I was like, and Jacob Wren actually came up with the idea. Me and him were talking. We're like, he's like, man, we should get like raccoons riding in that thing, and him like water skiing behind it. And I'm like, dude, let's do it. And then we pitched the idea, and we saw the artwork. And for those of you who have seen the artwork, you see Fester in the background flying off the skis, and all the raccoons cruising in the short bus. Man, it's pretty surreal seeing it come into action.
Killer, dude. Wow, I tell you what, man, cannot wait for the show. We'll be out there, and thanks for kind of putting on another event here in the state of Florida. Florida's going to be lit next year, man. It continues to be on the rise, as we always say, and we appreciate the intel, but look forward to having you kind of hopefully come back on early 2020 to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Look forward to it.
All right, brother. Be good and give the club our best. Thanks for all the support with Our Lifestyle, the podcast.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for being there for us.
All right, brother. Take care.
Later.
So there you have it, Small Town Throwdown. A couple of key updates. It's pretty simple. Just type in Small Town Throwdown, as Matt mentioned, and biggity boom, you'll have the information right there at your fingertips. So next up, as I kind of hinted, what's hot on social media? This one's kind of cool. This is brought to you by our friends at Garage Gear Clothing. If you're looking for a holiday gift, something a little bit different, whether you want a dually, lifted truck, lowered, sport trucks themed shirts, or something like maybe a side-by-side on its shirt, we know your man or woman will definitely like this gear. Get out there. It's garagegearclothing.com. Check them out. Give them a follow on Facebook and Instagram. So check this out, right? If you look at a post that we made on Thursday, we posted an old school Alpine pull-out cassette player, aka tape player. I mean, we got a lot of love on this one. Now, it's funny, I don't look at likes, so to speak. I like to look at kind of the engagement. And this one, I gotta say, is probably going to be one of our top posts in terms of comments. We're nearing 50 comments on it. And, of course, some of those are our replies. But, man, it's awesome how at the podcast here, we can post things or talk about things that are old school, so to speak, whether it be a mini truck, BMX bike, hell, having Bill Allen on from the movie Rad. And we get just people that are going, man, reminiscent about the good old days, so on and so forth. So, man, you know, again, for everyone that follows us on Instagram and Facebook and kind of engages with us in these posts and these awesome comments, we really appreciate it. There was a comment earlier, someone had, this is mopar.rt on Instagram. He had said, my first head unit was a Sony tape deck. You could pull out the whole unit. He basically says, I would walk around the mall like you can't steal my deck, LOL. In 96, I paid $1,000 for both. I still have a Sony CDX 900 CD player with copper chassis and a detachable face with the Sony 10-disc changer. So I know there's a lot of people out there that collect some of this retro, old school, if you will, stereo equipment. And that post, I've had that photo for a very long time. I saved it probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I was going through my photos, and I was like, you know what? Let's see what people think about this. And biggity boom. So if you're not following us and you're a new listener, check us out, Our Lifestyle Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, so next we're going to get to Rad, the 1986 cult classic movie. So I wanted to preface, as I mentioned, the interview with Bill with a few things, right? Because in the interview, some of you guys might be coming here to find out, like, okay, so we're going to ask him, like, how did he figure out how to do all those tricks and all that stuff? A lot of that stuff for us that are big fans of the movie, like, we know the intel on the basics, right? So I'm not going to cover all the basics, but I'll cover a couple of key things. And then I really want to talk about the different social media pages that are out there. There are a ton. There's not an official on Instagram, but there is on Facebook. So we'll talk about that. So if you've been a long-time listener, I mentioned this in the beginning, you know that I love the movie. It came out in 1986. Now, during Bill's interview, we touch on a lot of topics, including his book, My Rad Career. Now, what's key here is that book was kind of the premise for the interview because he talks about all the other stuff he did. And in the 80s, he was doing a lot, and he's continued to embrace the whole Crew Jones rad all these years later, which is 33 years later, right? Coincidentally, the same number that he used in the movie 33. Now, there have been some events, like there was Rad is 25, which I did not make it to up in Cochrane, I think it was. And then, of course, there was the Hell Track 2018 event, which I did make it to. That was cool. That was the first time I really got a chance to talk with Bill a little bit face-to-face. I did talk to him. One of the homies had got me on the phone with him at one point, and it was a time when I had just lost my dad. I think it was the November 2 years ago, and I was sitting there in their backyard of my dad's place and thinking about all the times I rode the bike through the yard, the mongoose, and for one of the homies, and I forget exactly the guy's name, and I apologize, but he had said, "Hey, man, I'm at this event. I'm going to get Bill to give you a call here." And it was really cool because, my dad brought the VHS bootleg home, and then the rest is history. But again, during the interview, we touch on a lot of topics, and one of those topics is the fact that Bill was also on Family Ties for a period, and you guys know I'm a huge Back to the Future fan, so there was a cool tie-in there, and we'll hit upon that. Now, here are some key things to know, and again, I'm not going to go over a lot of them. Bill Allen, also known as, in the movie, Crew Jones, he never rode really BMX, right? He doesn't do any of the tricks in the movie. I know that's a question that a lot of people want to know, like, hey, does he still ride BMX and things like that? Now, his friends, Martin and Eddie, which I'll give out their Instagrams here in a moment, they have kind of worked with him. I've seen some photos of him kind of doing a couple, tricks there on the pavement and things like that and trying to learn. And of course, there's a draw for him to go to like these different events, right? People that love the movie, maybe they want to get something signed, things like that. Bill has always been great about that. But just to be clear, he, doesn't do any of the tricks in the movie, right? So that's pretty well known for us fans of the movie. Now, the movie, as you can imagine, I don't know the numbers, but it didn't do well at the box office. It did phenomenal at the rental stores, right? So for anyone that's a child of the 70s, 80s, I guess early 90s, but you basically had either the Blockbusters and a lot of the mom and pops places. And in the book, he kind of talks a little bit about how it gained a lot of steam. I don't know if anyone has any official numbers from back then, but I know it was like a top rental. And it was just one of those movies that did way better outside the box office. Another movie that's like that in terms of, to give you an example, is Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption is by all, everyone's understanding. I mean, it's a classic. If you haven't watched it, you're straight missing out. Shawshank Redemption was a movie that there was a lot of discussion over the title, and they're like, man, and I think the title maybe threw people off. But that movie didn't really do well at the box office, but it did phenomenal in the rental segment, and of course, it's turned into kind of this classic movie. But with a cult classic, you typically will have people that fall in love with a particular movie that maybe did well or whatnot. We could probably do a whole podcast episode on what a cult classic is, but by all understanding, I would say Rad is a cult classic. Now, Eddie Fiola, and I hope I'm saying their names right because I sometimes butcher them. It's EDDIEFIOLA on Instagram, so you can check him out. Eddie's a great dude. I got a chance to talk to him a little bit at the Hell Track event. I was right there when he did his first drop-in on the famous Hell Track that they recreated at Texplex. And I actually have some video that I haven't shared yet, and I've been working on trying to kind of put it all together and tell a story, and eventually I'll get that out. Now, Martin Aparicio, I think I'm saying that right, is MartinAparijo. Now, both of these awesome dudes, they play Crew Jones in terms of the tricks and things like that. And someone that knows the movie like inside and out. When we watched it, we screened it at the Hell Track event in 2018. There's people that can call out and say, okay, Eddie will be like, that's me right there. And Martin will be like, that's me. So, those guys did the majority of the tricks. I'd say most of them. Now, there was a guy that did the backflip. Then, there was R.L. Osborne. His name kind of comes up in there. From my understanding, he did a few things. But, again, that's one of the reasons why when he's doing the tricks and when he's riding on Hell Track, he's got the helmet on, he's got the goggles on, and he's all decked out. I mean, you really can't tell that it's not Bill Allen. So, really good movie magic there from Hal Needham and the team that made the movie. But, there's a lot more facts about the movie, but I kind of wanted to keep it high level for like even a casual listener. Now, this is the key here, right? There's several rad Instagram accounts. Now, here are some that you're going to want to check out. So you've got Rad Boy Productions with that's BOYZ, Rad Boys Productions. And then he also does The Rad Stand. Now, he's a good dude. He does mostly a lot of different BMX restorations, right? Not really tied to rad, but I did want to mention him because he made, quote, the rad pads. And I bought a set of pads from him. And those are the pads that I had Bill sign at the Hell Track event in 2018 there at Texplex Park. So, pretty cool dude. I know he's been busy on his house, so I don't know how much he's posting lately. Now, you have Rad the Movie, and it's RAD_the_movie. Now, that account has stopped posting as of October 2017, but it does have some gems out there. Now, you have Rad Racing Movie Cars. This is Devin, who I think it used to be Christian Hollings, which is the name of Lori Loughlin's character in the movie, and he recreated her Chevy Blazer. But he also has, as Bill mentions, he has the Corvette as well, which was the prize for Hell Track. So he has not the screen used car, he has basically a reproduction of it, right? That looks exactly like it. But he's now at Rad Racing Movie Cars, and as you can imagine, with having two now, it's not just Christian Hollings. So check him out. Devin's a good dude. I bought a shirt from him at the 2018 event, and that's in one of my cases that I have with my Rad memorabilia, so to speak. Now you have Rad the Movie, which is all together. They haven't posted anything since 2014. Rad_33_official. They haven't posted anything since, I think, January of this year, but they do have some cool stuff out there, a few posts. Then you have the_movie_rad. Okay, the movie rad. Now, this one is Jeremy Mosier, I think is how you say his name, and I think he helps with the main overall rad page on Facebook. That account also has not posted since 2018, but if you look through those, 4 or 5 that I mentioned, there's some cool stuff out there, some kind of throwback, some behind-the-scenes photos and things like that. Now, Tyler Culver is Crew, Bart, Rod, Rex, Hell Track. Yes, all together. And we plan to have Tyler on. I didn't get a chance to meet him at the Hell Track event, but he's a huge fan of the movie Rad, and his bikes are typically on display with Devin's vehicles. That included at the Hell Track event. So he has like a Christian Hollings, which was Lori Loughlin's character. He has her kind of tribute bike. He has, of course, the Crew Jones bike, and he's kind of built them all out. So very cool. Devin's a great dude. We've had him on in the past, so if you go back and you kind of search the archives, you'll see that we had him on. Good dude, as I mentioned, and check him out. Now, during the interview, I'll mention a really cool account that you want to follow. We posted some of his photos in the past, so you'll want to check that page out. But I'll let you guys hear that during the interview. So the end-all, be-all is a couple of Facebook pages. So you have Rad. The Movie Collection is one of the best that you'll see on, and it's on Facebook. You can check out the post from September 21st, which shows info that they compiled years ago for each of the riders and bikes in the movie for the Hell Track race. Back in July of this year, as an example, they posted a real clean, clear document that shows all of the filming locations. Most of those were in Cochrane, Well, let me say this. I think the majority of the movie, almost all of it, was filmed in Canada, but there's like 2 main locations, and you'll see that how they have it split out, kind of like in their PowerPoint slide that they put together. If you're ever up in Cochrane or you want to go visit the locations, that's the page that you want to go to kind of really see the breakdown. They did a great job at that. Okay, the next really fact, and Bill mentions this at the Helltrack 2018 event, he said Rad was never officially released on VHS to the public. What he basically alluded to was anyone that had a copy of it was one that kind of was either borrowed forever from the local rental store, or it was, someone that gave a copy away or something like that. I know back in those days, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know a lot of movies that were kind of released, they weren't released for sale, is kind of what he was getting at from my understanding, but they were released to the places to rent them. So that was kind of interesting to me. And we also hit upon really probably one of the number one questions that he gets. I won't give you all the specifics on what he says, right? So you got to listen. But just to be clear, Rad was never officially available on DVD, Blu-ray, or anything streaming, any of the major platforms, right? Again, we talk about that a little bit in the podcast. But the best bootleg copy you can get is a guy used to run a site. I don't know if the site's still up, but it was raddvd.com. Now, one little fun fact is that page is the same guy that sells the DVD on eBay, and he sells it for like $9.99. On that old website, it was like $24.99. And when you're watching that version, which is the version that most of us have, including myself, you'll see there's one point in, I don't know if it's a qualifying, but you'll see a little, watermark pop up, and it was aired on, I guess, the equivalent of Showtime or HBO up in Canada, and that's where I think the rip, if you will, came from. But if you're looking to buy the movie, that's the best place you can get it. I want to say it's like around $10. It is a bootleg copy. It is really, in my opinion, a digital copy. I mean, it's pretty damn clear. I remember years ago, and I swear I should look this up, ESPN Classic channel played the movie Rad, and I was like, couldn't believe it when I saw it on TV. But again, 1986, it came out. It was never officially released, and hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe it will be released. You'll have to listen to the audio with Bill. We do talk about that. Okay, so those are a few things I wanted to kind of point out. Again, if you want to find out more information, you definitely want to check out the Facebook page. I gave you a lot of Instagram accounts. Some of them are kind of dead, so to speak. They don't post much, but those guys have put in a lot of work to post things over time, and I wanted to kind of give them shout-outs. Okay, next we got the show schedule. This is brought to you by our friends at All Time Low Magazine. If you don't know, now you know, print is not dead. If you're into custom cars or trucks, including mini trucks, you want to check out All Time Low Magazine, which is available at atlmagazine.com. You could subscribe, as I mentioned earlier, to our official OLP show calendar, and a lot of these dates are listed there. Now, what I'm going to do for sake of time is I'm only going to cover a few of these. That way, we can kind of move ahead and hit on a couple of their topics and then get into Bill's audio. But basically, the month of December, I talked about Severed in the Southwest. That's this weekend. That is in Arizona. January, we don't have much going on. And then when you hit February, you basically have a few huge shows. So you got Mini Truck Showdown. That's going down in Bakersfield, California. You could follow Mini Truck Showdown on Instagram or click the link in their bio, which will take you to minitruckshowdown.com. We're looking forward to this event, and we're making plans to make it out there. 1 week later, you're going to have, well, actually, that same weekend, if you're not able to make it to California, you've got After Dark, which is my co-host's show. That's at Quaker Steak and Lube here in Clearwater, and that is on February 15th, okay? It's a night show, so it kind of gathers late in the afternoon, around 4 or 5, and more to come on this show, but it goes down at night. It's a one-day show. Lone Star Throwdown, also known as LST, 2020 is going down in Conroe, Texas. That is February 21st through the 23rd. You can visit LoneStarThrowdown.com to pre-register up through the end of this year. Okay, they cut this show off at about 2,000 vehicles. That sounds like a lot, but they sell out. So if you're going to go, get out there. I think it's $60. You get 2 armbands. You get a nice little pre-registration pack. It's totally worth it, even if you're not going to bring a vehicle out. Hopefully you do, right? Because we don't want everyone pre-registering that's not bringing anything. But just know that there is also a process. If you don't finish your vehicle, you can transfer that. I know that's something that they've done in the past. But the 21st through the 23rd of 2020. Then you heard me talk about Orange Beach Invasion. That's going to be the 13th through the 15th. There in Orange Beach, Alabama. Really looking forward to this show because it's such an awesome venue. It's really a destination type show, and you want to come out for it. Again, March 13th through the 15th. Okay, you got Sparks in the Park. Okay, this is a new show also that recently came on as an advertiser. You can follow Sparks in the Park 850 on Instagram, and they're available on Facebook. Just search Sparks in the Park. This is at the Mullet Festival, yes, in Niceville, Florida, and that is April 3rd through the 5th. Negative Camber Florida members help put this show on. They're the kind of the brains behind it, and they're good people. David DeCorver goes to a lot of shows, as does his awesome wife. And just know that David DeCorver's C30 Badass Dually is also on the cover of All Time Low magazine. So big ups to David. Okay, so we're going to round it out with April. You have Southeast Mini Truck and Nats. And that's going to be the 24th through the 26th of April. Now, here's the key here. This is known as Mini Nats, and it's the 26th annual show. If you go on Instagram, type in Mini Truck and Nats, and you can click the link in their bio to hit minitruckandnats.com. Pre-registration opens, get ready for this, on the 1st of 2020. This show is going to sell out quick, so we hope to see all the minis on the rise, as we always say, out there in North Carolina. You can't go wrong. It's in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. A beautiful location and a beautiful time of the year, so we hope to see everyone out there. But we've got a lot more shows to talk about, including Made of Steel, Small Town Throwdown, Relaxing in the Park St. Louis, The Lowdown Show, also East Tennessee Showdown, Scraping the Coast, Relaxing in the Northwest, The Awakening, which we will be at again the end of July out there in the Portland, Oregon area. But the Spark Show is also in August. A lot of shows to talk about, and we'll continue to do so throughout the rest of our episodes going into 2020. All right, so a few more updates. You got the music and movie updates. So I talked about Game's new album. So The Game, go out there and check it out, Born to Rap. Overall, I like the album. You know, there's some songs on there I'm not really feeling. I kind of feel like it was, not his best album by far. It's got some jams, some joints on it, but it's just, typical stuff. Name dropping a lot. There's not a lot of substance to it. There's some things, he talks about different relationships on it and things like that. But, good album. I'm not going to call it a great album. Maybe it'll grow on me. Now, if you want to check out a really awesome album, check out Griselda. I think I'm saying that right. That's a Shady Aftermath album that dropped last week, okay? And I'd like to talk more about this on a future episode, but you could follow on Instagram. It's Griselda Records. They have about 70,000 followers, and it's the debut album, WWCD, which is available everywhere. If you click the link in their bio, it'll kind of spit you over to Spotify, Spotify, Apple Music, so on and so forth. But if you like grimy, hardcore hip hop, you're gonna love it. Raekwon the Chef, he does the intro in the album, and it's straight fire. Buffalo Kids, there's a lot more to talk about with this crew, and it's just a great album overall. I've listened to it several times, and big ups to them. They're doing big stuff. All right, now Jay-Z, I'm not the biggest fan of Jay-Z, but he's back on Spotify. Some of you guys know that he owns Tidal, But he's back on Spotify now. It was actually on his birthday that he's back. And it was funny. It reminded me in 2001 when Nas dropped Ether. And Nas actually dropped it on Jay's birthday, which was pretty funny. So that's just another little dig that Nas had at Jay-Z. They've, of course, since squashed the beef. Many regard Jay-Z as one of the greatest ever. I'm not really in agreement with that. I think money-wise, definitely. They call him the first billionaire in hip-hop. I always thought maybe Dr. Dre was, but, let's say Jay is. He's made a lot of money. He's partnering with the NFL now, blah, blah, blah. But in a future episode, I'll talk about Prodigy's from Mobb Deep. I'll talk about his awesome album, Rest in Peace, Prodigy. Or, excuse me, I'll talk about his awesome book, Rest in Peace, Prodigy. But the book is titled My Infamous Life. And he actually takes a shot at Jay-Z in here. And I respect him for that because he's always been a real dude. I never got a chance to meet Prodigy, but he, when you read his book, My Infamous Life, you'll see that he takes shots at several rappers. And this guy never minced his words, I think is the word I would like to use. But he just always was a real dude, man. And this book really, really, really lays it out. So we'll have to talk about that in a future episode when I have more time. And if you do read the book, check out page 158. That's where he talks about Jay. All right. Okay, automotive industry updates. This one, short and sweet. We talked about the Tesla truck recently on the last episode, but this post from Tesla, RATI.com. So it's Tesla Rati, RATI.com. Tesla's Elon Musk explains Cybertruck's adaptive air suspension after seeing a Ford F-350 get mangled. So, pretty interesting article. I won't go all into it, but it is cool that Elon Musk does respond to different things, or when he sees stuff, he talks about it. He'll even respond to people on social media. Of course, that could be his whole handlers and his whole team, which I would not be surprised. But so get out there and check it out. And I think for the most part, I talked about a lot. So thanks for listening. What we're going to do here is we're going to end it out. I'm sure there's some things we forgot, but the great news is we'll be back next Friday with a new episode. We have a lot really to hit upon between now and the end of the year. We've got some guests that we're circling back with to try to get them on. Then we also have like the end of year review, and we've got some other albums that we'll be paying homage to here in the next few months. So trying to remember where we left off. Here's one from October 11th. Awesome job on the podcast. I look forward to every episode. I appreciate all the time and hard work you guys put in. What you're doing for the scene doesn't go unnoticed. And that one, I think we covered that one before. No one you know. RA_BRANDONG 95 Silverado. I love the podcast. So cool hearing all the old school stories from back in the day. Brings back a lot of memories. Keep up the good work, fellas. Thanks for the 5-star review. Top notch. You got Dragon 407. I think this is Mr. Matt Middleton, who you heard from earlier. Just want to say I look forward to every episode, every week. I love hearing about the raw history of the scene. Keep it going. The way ODB and Miggity Mike rock is by far my favorite part of each show. So how we kind of are a little bit of dialogue, which you guys didn't hear on this episode. Side note, the choice of music for individual guests, perfection. Love hearing the mix of different old school songs and respect to the culture. Instagram is Dragon407_VC for Vertically Challenged. Okay, Craig S10, Variety, 5-star review. Look forward to listening every Friday. My wife and I both listen. The variety of topics are great and love the interviews. ODB and the crew are keeping the pedal stomped, and we appreciate that, homie. Okay, the best from Favreau, Favro. Best truck podcast around. Look forward to it every week. Dude, certainly appreciate that. You're one of the reasons why we continue to grow, and we're on the rise, as we always say. Okay, and then here is an excellent look behind the scenes. This is from Starguile. Finally, a show that gets the build stories in first person, full detail commentary. Great format, love it. Put a lot of work in, and when we see comments like that, I tell people all the time that's fuel to the fire to keep us going. It's late. Oftentimes on these nights when we've got our guests and we're running out of steam, then we get back, in our saddle. We put the pedal to the metal, and we love doing it. So for all the new listeners, again, follow us. We're going to roll in here with some Mr. Bill Allen, and big ups to him for sitting down with us. Love that he embraces the whole Rad Army, if you will, and he talks about his group, the Rad Army, and he's a great dude. So you guys enjoy the weekend. Again, if we missed anything, hopefully we didn't, but we're going to keep the pedal stomped into next weekend. All right, y'all. It's getting to Christmas time. We out you. Peace.
Well, when you moved up to Riverside, you thought the answer was hidden there, but it just turned out to be a place to hide. And baby, that town treated you so unfair. So meet me on out in the Lord's Road, baby.
Yo, so as I mentioned, we've got Bill Allen, and I had a chance to meet him a couple times, and we're finally getting a chance to sit down. But, Bill, I just wanted to kind of say, hey, welcome to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, where we hit on everything from mini trucks to old school BMX, man.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And I also wanted to kind of wish you a happy belated birthday. As I always say, born day. I'm also born in November, so happy belated, man.
Thank you. I've racked up a bunch at this point, so I'm happy to be here.
November 7th, right?
That's true.
Good stuff, man. Well, we have a lot that I'd like to kind of hit on during, this time. And I wanted to kind of just, a lot of the listeners know who you are. And, I kind of talk about the movie and some of the things, as we've kind of went on this journey the last 4 years with our podcast. But why don't you just give kind of like a high-level overview of who you are? Who is Bill Allen?
Who is Bill Allen? Well, I've been an actor most of my adult life, and I'm also a musician. I'm proud to say I still play out live, but mostly I've acted since I was 19 years old. Mm-hmm. I did my first movie out of Dallas, Texas, and soon moved to Los Angeles and started doing television shows like Family Ties and Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories. And then the great Hal Needham saw me on an episode of Hill Street Blues and brought me in to audition for a BMX-related movie that I hadn't heard of at the time. Nobody had. And 6 weeks later, I was on the set of Rad in Calgary, Canada. So this is what I'm mostly known for, what's going to be in my obituary and mostly probably my tombstone, too. So, it's kind of 33 years later, it's kind of had this enormous revival where you'll see Rad like parodied or talked about on like the Goldbergs or Tosh.0 I've done a number of times. And it's a real seminal movie for the kids who grew up in the 80s, the blockbuster generation. Mm-hmm. Loved it. And ate it up, essentially. So I'm real lucky to have that as a part of my legacy.
Yeah, well, it's awesome that you've embraced it, and we'll kind of hit on that, which, we're very appreciative of from a Rad fan's standpoint. Also, you kind of hit on with Family Ties. Like, I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. You had the pleasure of working with and being on the set with Michael J. Fox, with the hit TV show. What was that experience like? Just overall, any memories that you have from that time period?
Oh man, that was a magical time in my life. But that particular experience was just huge. I mean, it was probably the biggest sitcom on the air at the time. Michael Fox was on fire, mm-hmm. and he's just one of those guys that is representative of what you're trying to do, who really knocked it out of the park. And I had coincidentally met Bob Zemeckis to audition for the role he ended up doing while I'm working on Family Ties. He's shooting Back to the Future at night and rehearsing Family Ties during the day. So he was doing amazing work on zero sleep. So as far as the show experience was just off the charts great. I mean, it was a full juggernaut running machine by the time I jumped on, and it's one of those things that will endure long after I'm gone, just because it's one of those shows that was such a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll touch upon your book. And what I would tell everyone is, we'll have Bill kind of share where you can go out and buy it. But what I thought was cool is you shared a rare photo that I had never seen where you're standing there with Mark Price. And what I thought was funny is I didn't even notice that until, of course, you have it in the caption. You said, check out Michael Fox smoking and photobombing us. And then I see, he's peeking out down there. So it seems like you guys had a lot of good times, together on the set there.
Nothing but good times. And he was as sweet and as endearing as could be. And I got invited to the rap party at the end of the season, and he came out and asked me how I'm doing, fully recognized me. And, he's just one of the guys. So I don't know, man. There's nothing to dislike about that. I mean, I'm not a sitcom fan per se, but to be a part of that scene in the 80s and work with him, who's just an icon now, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, speaking of your book, for anyone that hasn't read it, I do suggest it. Now, I was going to plug Amazon, but I know that you have a better place for folks to go. You have the website listed in the back of the book. But what would be the easiest way, Bill, if someone wanted to get out there and read this book that I have right here that's really rad, man?
Actually, I've got some news surrounding this. The only way you can find it right now is on my website, which is myradcareer.com. That's the name of the book, myradcareer.com. And fortunately, I've just been picked up by Beacon Books. We're doing an audio version soon. It's going to be available in bookstores and everywhere. So I'm really excited about that. So we've taken it down off Amazon for the time being because I've just signed a contract with Beacon for them to sell it worldwide. But it is currently available through my own website.
Exactly. So thanks for sharing that detail at myradcareer.com. What I would tell the listeners is don't be bamboozled into, if you go to Amazon, there are a couple people selling the book for a very high price as the used price. You can get it for a very fair price on Bill's website. And, of course, we just shared that. But, Bill, as we kind of transition into a little bit of the rad talk, my father had brought the movie home when I was just, 7, 8 years old. He kind of hinted at the rad event, or the Hell Track event, I should say, in 2018 about how certain age groups, we've kind of fell in love with the movie. And one question I wanted to ask at that Hell Track event was, can you give us the lowdown, and I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, on, why is it not available on DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming platforms? I know it has to do with money and copyright and stuff like that, but I just don't know that our listeners really get the bottom answer on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't tell you that I know the real answer on that too. So here we are 33 years later, and man, I wish I could say some things, but
no,
I can't.
It's okay. No, it's fine.
So I feel that something will be done with that property.
Good.
That's all I can say.
For the
That's
better.
all I can
Okay.
say.
Hopefully.
That's all I got. That's all I got for you guys.
Yeah, no problem.
What's important is the fans keep it going. I was just at the Grands in Tulsa over the weekend, and just met hundreds of people who still just latch onto that movie, show it to their kids, and it's kind of bigger than what it started out as, is this little independent movie that was meant for kind of a specific audience, and it just kind of took off in a way that who would expect it?
Yeah, definitely. And what, one thing, and this is the last comment I'll make about the whole, hopefully it'll eventually come out, but I know just 4 or 5 years ago, like for instance, Vans tried to release the shoes, and then there was a little bit of lawsuit and things like that over the trademark and stuff like that. So to your point, there's this big drive for people that want them kind of merchandise, and you've done a good job with the Rad Army, which we'll hit on. But one thing that I wanted to also bring up is, now, what was it like being on the set of, let's say, the TV set, which you kind of talked about a little bit with Family Ties, but from a movie perspective, for us, we watch a movie and we're like, oh, wow, look how cool this was. But oftentimes people don't realize that, you might have only been on the rad set for 2 or 3 months. But what was it like being on the set back in those days, man?
It was magical. That's all I can say. I mean, I walked onto the set and I had never been exposed to that kind of riding, as most of the world had, frankly, unless you were a BMX fan and getting the magazines. And now I'm walking onto the set with the guys who are on the cover of the magazine. Of course, Eddie and Martin and Pat and so many others in the race world were all at this one spot. And so I had this feeling it was going to be big. I would look at kids on their bikes and I'd go, things are about to change around here. And in fact, they did. It took a while for it to really explode on home video. But I think, the reaction for the people who know the movie is well known, that these kids would go rent it weekend after weekend, watch it dozens of times over that weekend, and then eventually not return the movie, or the local video store owner would just feel bad and give them a copy. So I don't know of any other movie that's kind of had that effect, because it not only showed the sport, but it showed the lifestyle. It showed the way the kids interacted off the tracks, so to speak, and dealing with the community. And so it really kind of provided a platform for a lot of latchkey kids, because Crew was a child of either a broken home or not, rather his dad, I guess, had died or something. That's what they allude to in the script. So a huge percentage of the population had a similar experience, that they're a one parent family. And what did they do with that if all you got is a bike? And this kid rode his bike out, and above and beyond what anybody could expect. So that Rocky on a bike is kind of an apt description of how the movie played out. And so I think people just really latched onto that, and it became the favorite for so many. I still talk to people to this day who just watch it again and again. Yeah,
and what's awesome is when, growing up in that era, a lot of people think of Rad from BMX, Gleaming the Cube. There were the couple skateboard movies, but Gleaming the Cube in '89 kind of sticks out. And then you had North Shore, which was kind of like that movie I love from a surfing standpoint. So it's kind of like we were lucky that we had a couple of these movies, if you will, that really captured that time period. One thing that a lot of the old school BMX guys, like the collectors especially, they love the colors and the bikes and just the the different Skyway mag wheels and things like that of that time. And when you go back and you watch Rad now, and you see, to your point, like all the different outfits and things like that the riders wore, it really captured that time period. So, pretty cool stuff. Now, are you ever, you kind of hit on this, but are you ever surprised at how much love it continues to get? Because I know, like our friend with the Christian Hollings Blazer, right? Really good dude, became friends with them. You guys have went on the movie car thing, and you guys have done that, but man, you seem like you get a lot of love wherever you guys go in that thing with the bikes, and then, of course, with you being there, Bill.
Yeah, I've done the Hollywood Parade and the Huntington Beach Parade with Devin Hayes and the car. And it's really special when people come up and not only see the truck, but then there's Crew Jones standing right next to it.
Oh yeah.
For somebody who's a super fan, it's pretty great to watch that happen. So yeah, Devin Hayes is a great supporter of the movie. He also has an exact Corvette like the one in the movie. So we do a lot of these events together. I also do events with Martin and Ed. We've been all over the country and also to Australia and New Zealand and England. So we do a lot of these events, and they're rad fans the world over. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was cool to meet Martin. and Eddie at the Hell Track event. It was awesome that you guys really, and we'll hit upon it a little bit, but you guys did a great job. I know you were a big, supporter of that entire event, and everybody was so cool, laid back, and we just had a damn good weekend.
Yeah, it was a great event. For people who don't know, about a year and a half ago, Hell Track was recreated outside of Dallas at a place called Texplex Park, and they did a full-scale recreation of Hell Track. And there was an actual race and qualifying heats, and for the fans of the movie to show up and watch this thing go down. Myself, I was there. Bart Connor was there. Martin, Ed, a lot of I think Sheepdog was there. A lot of riders from the movie. It was just there was a lot of people just walking around in shock. I mean, it's just like they walked onto the movie set, and to the bold and the brave, they got to drop in on that opening wall.
Oh yeah,
it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'll have to share. I didn't share all the pictures yet. I took some 360 photos. I took some wide angle. It was a really cool. And I was only able to go to the VIP day because I had another, car show, Scraping the Coast, that I had to kind of, bolt away to. But just for the one day, again, wanted to say thanks for doing that. It was awesome. And earlier this year, when we were at Spring Fling here in Florida over in the Daytona area, you and I kind of joked a little bit about some of the memes that have made their way around about Lori Loughlin, and not to hit on that too much, I do have to say, whoever made that one meme about the SATs and she had a way around it, that was, I think, the best one I've seen, man. So kudos to whoever did that. Wink, wink. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, you got to give it to the screenwriter, because there she is in the school trading test scores for cheap T-shirt labor. Now, her husband made his living off selling cheap T-shirts, and she's trading test scores, dude. I mean, there's a hole in the matrix there. So I've lived long enough where I see life imitate art, and when that happens, it gets really very bizarre. Yeah.
You can't make this shit up, man. That's all I can say.
You can't make that up, and I'll just say this, because I follow this story very closely, because will forever be connected with Lori, and we were friends and friendly, and then I screwed up my first date with her and my only date with her. I know it's a funny story, but truth is, I like the girl and I like her, and for this to go down, I don't know anybody that's not pretty shocked and disturbed over it. And a lot of people take it very personally. So I think the lesson is nobody gets off free. Everybody's got something to deal with, and she's just doing it in such a spectacular fashion that people are shocked, because here's somebody who ostensibly had the perfect life and the perfect lifestyle and $100 million in the bank and this big career. And,
and Full House was, Full House comes back, and and then to your point, it's just like, you sometimes, and I think when someone's such high pedestal, that there's other people that want to see them fall. But at the end of the day, I think you summed it up best that everybody has something going on in their life, and with her, this is something I would never want to be dealing with.
Well, it points to something deeper going on, and boy, is she going to get punished for that, for following that kind of egotism, and that's not healthy for anybody. So it's fraught with traps out here. The show business, I guess, is a little more detrimental to people's life and egos if they're not careful. It's not like most other jobs, and you get used to anything very quickly. And she's human just like everybody else, so you get used to your surroundings and what you're used to. So she's about to have a new normal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. Anyway, God bless her,
Well, I call him a friend of ours on Instagram. It's the 80s Garage. There's an underscore between the 80s and then a garage. He recently changed his Instagram name, but he's got a The only copy that he's kind of said this, and I'm pretty confident he has the laser disc of Rad, which, as you know, those are sought after and they come up on eBay here and there. But he has one signed by Lori Loughlin, and she even took a photo. And what's funny is the gentleman Devin, as you mentioned, from the Christian Hollings Blazer and kind of that whole deal, he had even tried to get her to sign something, and it didn't seem like, Bill, that she really embraced it. But I thought it was pretty cool that the homie, he has the laser disc, that sign. That's probably about the only copy out there.
No, there's more copies out there.
Oh, a couple more. Okay.
They pop up occasions. So does the LP. I saw that recently, and sometimes you'll get a sealed.
Oh, right. The tape cassette and stuff.
VHS. I would say I've got among the most rare items. In other words, I've got a DVD burned off a fairly poor quality VHS that was recorded in Canada. That's got 7 deleted scenes that have never been seen in the United States or in the video store or anything. So it's about, 8-10 minutes of new footage that nobody's ever seen outside Canada. And it's one viewing that a guy taped and then forgot he had it on his machine. So I actually got that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, it's awesome to see. I know, like, on the Raditz 25 and some of these collectors, and, like, even the guy I mentioned, the 80s Garage, like, there are guys that have collected. I even saw someone, I think, on one of the Facebook groups that had been gifted, like, the script or was a copy of it, maybe something like that. But it is mind-blowing to me that the stuff that people have collected, it's pretty crazy.
Well, there's not a lot of official merch out there.
Right, yep.
There's except for the band's shoe, the original run, and then, like you said, the bands did a repop of that. But otherwise, it's movie posters, and then, like I said, VHS or Laserdisc or LPs,
Yeah, definitely. Now, you mentioned earlier the Tosh .0. I always thought that was kind of cool. Like, I think he's a funny guy overall. Love his show and his format. But it was like you guys kind of had forged a little bit of a bond to the point that on the back of your paper copy, you even have the awesome quote from him. But he seems like an 80s guy, like, at heart,
I didn't get to know him, really working with him. He's the busiest guy in show business. But I know that when he plays live, or often when he has concerts, he'll project like the opening scene of Rad on the big screen before he comes out. So, I think he's just one of those super fans who stays up at night thinking about this stuff. And maybe it was the last time I was on. He's like, he opens the show, crew cheats in the qualifying races, roll tape, and it shows me cutting across and so it's just, he's one of these guys who actually sits around and thinks about this stuff. and so it's hysterical. When I'm not on the show, he references me a lot, actually. Like, hey, I know Bill Allen and yada, yada. So how cool is that, dude?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. One trivia thing that I don't think a lot of people know about the movie, and I'm pretty sure I got this right. My understanding that it was R.L. Osborne that's on the cover, doing, of the VHS tape, that artwork. And I forget if that was talked about at the Hell Track event, but do I have that understanding right as far as you know?
I happen to know that's correct. He's on his red line, and I know the guy who bought that bike.
Oh, wow.
It was at Redline headquarters for some time. Anyway, he paid $70,000.
Holy crap! Yeah, I've heard of the bikes going up. Talked to a guy locally that was telling me he's got a pretty big collection. He's even bought from Eddie and Martin apparently before at these different shows, but I've never heard of one that high. And it never ceases to amaze me how much the OS or old school BMX stuff continues to kind of go up in price, almost better than the stock market in some cases.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just like comic books or anything else. They're not making any more of those, so the old ones go for what they can get for them.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let's talk a little bit about, you kind of mentioned the Rad merch and whatnot, but I think it was pretty awesome, man. Around the time I met you and I kind of saw how you were embracing the whole Rad Army, how might someone find out more information or become a part of that group?
Let's see. We were having some issues with the server recently, so I'll make sure that's up and running. But it's helltrackbmx.com, or you can message me directly through Facebook.
Got it.
And my Instagram handle is Bill Slim Allen, if that's any help,
Yep, definitely. And I remember you guys kind of had a Facebook group going as well. Is that still happening? Because I haven't been on Facebook as much.
Yeah, that's part of the deal with the Rad Army. So you'll get some swag and some love for me on a phone call and some perks for just joining. And then the Facebook group is where we all kind of gather and we announce different events and I do a lot of videos and remote stuff and interviews. We get some legends up there interviewing with us a lot. So it's just, we're having a lot of fun with it.
Killer, man. And when you think back to the movie all these years later, like, do you have a favorite scene? Was it one that stuck out? I mean, other than, the Lori Loughlin scenes, right? I know that one's probably up on all the fans, list, but, like I think back to the movie and I remember, when they've got, you and the stunt riders going up the logs. As a kid, I always thought that was cool, and I kind of know how they did it. But like, is there anyone scene that stands out to you? Like, hey, that was my favorite scene.
I really liked. A couple times I got an acting buzz working with Talia Shire when she confronts me in the qualifying, and working with Jack Weston. These guys are. And Talia are people I grew up watching and loving and admiring. And all of a sudden I'm on a movie set and they're in my movie, so to speak, even though I was working for her. So they're very professional actors. And that's why that movie doesn't suck after all these years is Hal was very wise in putting very strong supporting players in there in those roles that could have been done by lesser actors, but not done nearly as effectively. So, actually what a lot of people don't know, the scene where Talia confronts me, I started out as 1 in 10,000 and now I'm 1 in 20. That dialogue is actually all dubbed. So we recorded all the dialogue later. And if you look at it, you can't tell. It's very well, I must say. It's spot on. That's the only job I'm really proud of is the dubbing I did 6 months later in an ADR studio, because that took some doing.
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm a big fan of the Goonies, and I was watching. It's really short. It was a making of the Goonies, and in that famous photo of the boys there with the map in front of them, that was like taking like 6 months after I think Principal Photography had wrapped, and I had never known that. And they took it, I think, at the Universal, one of the lots there or something, But it's amazing sometimes the things that you don't know that kind of go into making a cult classic or a masterpiece or, whatever type of movie a lot of these, including me, that we're into,
Yeah, a lot of movies have reshoots and go back 2 years later and add more footage. So I remember doing a photo shoot with Bart Connor, like the weekend movie that came out. They had us back in the studio doing reshoots for the ads, So I don't know what happened to that photography.
Yeah, and I seen following on eBay a lot. Like sometimes the posters from overseas will come up, and they're a little bit different, and that stuff is always kind of intriguing. I know a lot of guys have collected that, including the 80s Garage guy that I follow. He's got some pretty cool stuff, but to your point, the stuff's pretty rare, and it doesn't really come up often. At least the legit OG original stuff, but. You mentioned Hal Needham, and you talked a little bit about him at the Helltrack event, which I appreciate. He directed many films like Smokey and the Bandit 2, Cannonball Run, etc. But he also directed Rad, as the fans know. Now, you mentioned his book during that Helltrack event. Can you share with us, a little bit about how awesome Hal was as a person, as a stuntman, etc.?
Well, for those who don't know, he wrote a book about his career, Hollywood Stuntman, I believe is the name of it, and he was the highest paid and most acclaimed stuntman in Hollywood for probably a couple of decades before he ever started directing films. He became Burt Reynolds' stunt double, then best friend, then lived in his guest house, and he eventually got Burt to star in this movie that he actually came up with. But Hal was just a real man's man, a real Southern gentleman, but the toughest hombre you'll ever meet. He broke over something like 50 bones or something like that during his career. And if you look at his reel on YouTube or something like that, the stuff he did is truly unbelievable. So he was just a top drawer athlete, smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day,
Wow.
drank scotch like it was going out of style, closed down the bar every night. And he was well into his 50s at this point, and just tough as nails, but man, just sweet. And you wouldn't be talking to me right now if it weren't for Hal Needham. So, I got to spend some time with him a couple of years before he died, and I just treasure those moments because I just got to read his autobiography, so I was able to grill him about that and get the backstory on a lot of those chapters that were most intriguing to me. And what can I say? He won an Oscar for building the Shot Maker, this camera car, and then he got a Lifetime Achievement Oscar just a couple of years before he died. But he innovated so much, like the airbag for stuntmen to fall into. They used to fall into cardboard boxes and 2x4s, and then the air ram that launches stuntmen into the air. He came up with that idea first.
Wow.
Yeah, just so many things. He completely made over NASCAR and helped make it the sport that is now, which I think he was definitely trying to do with Hell Track. In other words, in the original script, it was just a normal BMX race. And he's the one who came up with the Hell Track concept and really blowing it up and really making Hell Track. And that made the movie, if you think about it. You try to imagine the movie without Hell Track. It's just, you can't. So he was trying to do with bikes what he did with NASCAR, because he was a NASCAR owner, and he brought all this glitz to NASCAR that it didn't have before. Before, it was just a bunch of good old boys screaming around the track, right?
Yeah.
But he put him in the sharp dress. He put the pit crew in the sharp dress overalls and brought out the cheerleaders and all this telemetry to the cars and really just renovated. So he does rad and has the same vision for bicycles. And it wasn't too long that here comes the Huck Jam, here comes the Do Tour, here comes X Games. I think he was really forward thinking in all of that, and gets zero credit for that kind of in that realm.
Yeah, well, rest in peace. I think the word that sums it up is pioneer. For anyone out there, you can just search Hal Needham, HalNeedham with 2 E's there. He passed away at 82 out there in Los Angeles. But, I can't say much bad about the guy, man. He lived an awesome life, and, rest in peace to the legend. Now, I did want to hit on, Brandon Lee was a close friend of yours, I think a roommate at one point. Our listeners around my age will remember the movie The Crow. He was gone really far too soon, as we all know. This year, I think, marked the 26th, anniversary of his untimely passing. But, you being such a close friend of him and him being son of Bruce Lee, you must have seen this talent with him. I mean, it's so disheartening that he was gone at such a young age, man.
Well, it's a very personal story to me. I mean, we were actually best friends and roommates, and we founded a theater company together. We traveled around the country together. We were just Butch and Sundance. That's all I can say. And so I really got to see him flourish as a martial artist, and as an actor, and most importantly, as a person and as a friend. It was the last 5 years of his life that I got to really know him. And during that time, it was my heyday as an actor, and we really got to support one another. And he was one of a very strong, talented group of people who were coming up at the same time. And he just left us way too soon. So right now I'm involved in doing a documentary about Brandon.
Awesome.
And we've been talking to a lot of his martial arts instructors and partners, including Dan Inosanto, who was Bruce's protege, his dad's protege. And yeah, I would expect that to be coming out next year, but the people that have already sat down and have agreed to sit down is just, it's jaw dropping. I mean, really great, talented, loving people are showing up, just to give their props to Brandon. And, the more I find out about him through people who work with him or trained with him as a martial artist, the more I'm just bowled over. We lost so much, in the movie world, what he was about to do. I mean, he was just more capable than his dad.
Yeah.
Now you chew on that for a while. He was more capable than his dad as a martial artist, and certainly as an actor, because that's what his focus was. It's again,
Yeah,
for me,
it just gives me goosebumps, man. Sorry, it does.
Well, it does me also, and we sat down at a cafe recently to film more about this documentary, and just a couple blocks away from his old apartment in funky Echo Park out here. And the three main posters I remember seeing in his Echo Park pad were of his dad, Bruce, James Dean, and Jim Morrison were the most prominent. And these were the people that he paid attention to. Now, we all know those guys flamed out at an early age, and because of that, became beyond legends. Icons that will be around after the earth is burned up.
Yes.
The cockroaches will be talking about these people. And so that was kind of his template to follow. And he really did follow all those guys in their intensity. And then 26 years later, here I am giving a film crew a tour of his apartment and the places we used to eat, just like those guys. It's just like, bang, they did 3 movies and they were out of here. Or Jim Morrison, became this icon, was done at 27, and then Brandon achieved the same thing by the time he was 28, and now he's gone, and he's iconic in a way that's untouchable, unchangeable, and irrevocable. He did it.
Well,
he did it,
and I couldn't agree more. I think, like, when you look at the legacies of, like, the Marilyn Monroes and stuff, and his legacy and his story needs to be told, and it's awesome to hear kind of what you're assisting with and kind of helping drive, because when you look at, like a Marlon Brando or just some of these iconic folks, their legacy lives on through merchandise and through stories and things like that. And it will just be great to hear, some more of Brandon's story. So, I know, again, to your point, he was a best friend of yours, and I know you talk about it in the book. That's why I highly encourage everyone, check out My Rad Career. He'll talk about some kind of the intimacies of life, including when you first heard about his untimely passing. So thanks for sharing that, Bill. So a little bit lighter topic. You talked about, playing in a band, the Pipe Fitters. When I was leaving the Rad event, I had to drive overnight over to Biloxi that Thursday night. You guys were kind of just setting up, and in the book, you have a photo with the Pipe Fitters. You guys have been playing a long time. I know that you also have a photo in here from Live Aid. So I know the Pipe Fitters is near and dear to your heart. How do you tell the story of you guys playing all these years now, man?
Well, just to correct you, it was Farm Aid, not Live
Farm
Aid.
Aid. Sorry, Farm Aid.
Being from Texas.
Sorry.
So it came to pass. I did a play with Brandon Lee, coincidentally, about a blues band.
Okay.
And the band consisted of me, my brother, who was starring in the play, Christopher Lindsay, who's a Nashville songwriter now, and a drummer. And the play folded, the band stayed together, and because we were all dear friends with Lou Diamond Phillips, he ended up joining the band because he's Lou Diamond Phillips, you know. And so we ended up touring around the country in a tour bus. We probably did 6-8 tours and played hundreds of dates. And at one point ended up opening for Billy Ray Cyrus when he was doing stadiums. So there I am, a harmonica playing actor who hadn't even picked up an instrument really until like 4 years before. And now I'm touring, you know, stadiums with Billy Ray Cyrus. It's like, how does this happen? How does this happen? And yeah, we ended up playing Farm Aid with Willie Nelson. And, you know, if you're from Texas, Willie is bigger than Jesus or Roger Staubach or anybody.
Right.
I mean, he changed everything. And I lived in Texas during the outlaw cowboy days, you know, him and Waylon in Austin. So his legend was beyond by the time I got to work with him, you know, play his festival. And that was all because of Lou and his influence. But we actually had a really great band by the end of our run. And Christopher Lindsay, who I mentioned, our bass player, moved to Nashville because of our ties we formed there, and has now worked with every major Nashville artist you can name: Taylor Swift, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney. He's sold something like 90 million records. So and he's going to be a part of the documentary also. He's coming out here in a week or so to sit down and talk about Brandon. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, man. Well, it's cool to see you guys have had that friendship, and just, you know, you love getting together, and not all bands are like that. So, you know, obviously bands have ups and downs, but it's cool to see you guys have that tight friendship and whatnot. But, you know, when I think back to a lot of the stuff we talked about, and, you know, I think, you know, Rad 25, I didn't make it to that event. I was at the Hell Track 2018.
Uh-huh.
What's next for Rad fans? Because you know, Bill, they want more. We want more. Do you anticipate more stuff? I know they would need to become a part of the Rad Army, but any hints you could throw out there?
No.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
I knew that was coming.
Except stay tuned. That's all I can say. I'm in it to win it and to be there for the fans, and you know that.
Yep.
I show up to these events and I meet everybody and sign every body part, and it's a joy of my life. So I think good things are coming for Rad fans.
Well, good stuff. And why don't you give a shout out? I know your lady, right? She's a big supporter of everything. And keep me honest here. She was at the Rad event. I remember she helped, I think, probably a lot with the event. But you can't be an awesome dude like Bill Allen without an awesome, significant other. Isn't that right?
It's true. My lovely wife, Carol Allen, is just a godsend to me, and we're working on new material for the book tonight. We're doing some editing, so it's going to be out in hardback on audiobook.
Oh, good.
Next year with added material. I'll probably throw a couple more pictures in there, but you'll be able to get it on your Kindle and on Amazon and at Barnes and Noble. So I'm really excited. Beacon just found me online and decided they want to work with me. So this is going to be a great thing.
Excellent. And I would tell the listeners, if you go to myradcareer.com, as Bill mentioned earlier, you'll see some of the color photos that if you happen to have that paperback copy like I do here in front of me. Of course, it's a black and white, but some of those color photos are on there with Jack Weston, Alfie Weiss, and so on and so forth. So I think that's pretty cool. But, Bill, we talked about a lot earlier in the podcast. I kind of touched upon before we started some of the things, like some of the questions that you probably get a lot. and I hit upon those. You answered a lot of those at the Hell Track event. So we did have a couple of our friends, if you will. They submitted questions. Like Scott Bunselmeyer was joking. He goes, "Hey, well, he signed the side of my trailer. He has a really cool enclosed trailer, and at truck shows, he plays the Rad DVD on the TV on the outside. Dude, it looks pretty cool." So he was kind of joking about that. And then Chris Wegman, he kind of said, "Hey, we need another movie." And I know that there were some talks and some stuff, but I think you best summed it up. Like, stay tuned. You never know what's coming.
Yep.
Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what could be in store for the Rad fans and Crew Jones in particular. So, yeah, it's been a fun ride, and it's not over yet.
Yeah, so to the 80s Garage and Devin and everyone out there, if you found us and you enjoyed this, it's awesome that Bill sat down with us. Bill, is there anything else? It's been an honor and a pleasure having you on, but anything else you would want to share with the listeners or maybe some of the Rad fans?
Well, I'm also working on an interview show. I'm a ultralight airplane pilot. I've got this little open-air airplane called a Powered Parachute, so I'm starting an interview show where I interview people from the back of it. So, yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
So, Sean Butler, Goldie Butler, who's pretty big in the BMX world, he went up with me for the first time, and so I think that's going to be coming out probably in the early part of next year. We'll start putting those out.
Talk about taking the karaoke and the cars, show to the next level, Bill. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
You're always at the
new heights.
Yeah, to new heights. Well, again, myradcareer.com. We'll tag Bill on Instagram, but if you type in Bill Allen, it will pop up. And thanks again. We will stay in touch with you, and dude, stay rad, man. I know it's cliche, but stay rad, brother.
Thanks, man. Good talking to you.
All right, man. We got you, everyone. So there you have it, the interview with Mr. Bill Allen. Thanks again for all of your time. Also, during the interview, I mentioned the Laserdisc, and I was actually, what I was trying to say was the 80s Garage on Instagram. If you take a look back at his posts, the homie, he has the only copy that I know that's signed. So that's what I was trying to say. And to Bill's point, those laser discs, they do come up for sale. And going back to my comment earlier, how it was never officially available for sale, I should have been more specific. I think that was just like the VHS itself. But for those that remember the Laserdisc players, by all means, that Laserdisc was available for sale back in the day. And it's one of those things where it's not super hard to find, but generally speaking, they're anywhere from $100 to $200. You sometimes will see them sealed on eBay. And the homie at the 80s Garage, he of course has one, and his is signed by Lori Loughlin, and he even somehow got her to take a photo with the number plate, I think it was. He posted back on October 24th. Two of my most prized possessions in this Rad BMX plate is this Rad BMX plate and LP signed by Bill Allen and Lori Loughlin. It took me 3 years to get her to sign it. And, so crazy stuff there. But there's no doubt Rad is a cult classic if you haven't ever watched it. Like I said, gave you guys the couple of the means to get out there and buy it. I think the website I meant to say was Rad Dash, so that you need to put a Dash DVD in there. But not sure if that site's still going on or if it's still up. But you could always go on eBay. Again, it is the same guy. I kind of took a look at the different website and compared it to the eBay listing, and it's the same dude. So for about $10 you can get out there and you'll have a pretty good copy of it. But the 80s Garage, if you even go back, you'll see that he has a lot of cool stuff, including the Rad 33 anniversary poster, of course some different tribute bikes, and just a lot of cool stuff. So in general, we got to have the homie on at some point. But with that being said, you guys have heard me talk enough. If you're a new listener, thank you guys so much. And as I said earlier, enjoy the weekend. We out you. Peace.
playing. Our nerves are made of steel, balanced on the edges of everything we feel. It's gonna take all we've got just to make it through this night. Gotta feel it right through my skin, and it's cutting like a knife. Get ready to break the ice. Feels like time is standing still. Aim it right for your heart. Ready to take another spill. Only you can make it right. You can break the ice inside of me. A single-minded passion, a solitary stand. I thought I was alone, left